purpose of this video will be to try to show people how to use the skew successfully to take a blank from square. This particular one started out completely square. It's a translucent, transparent polyresin, and what I'm using at this point is a large skew. This one is about 1.25 inches, maybe 1.125 inches. As you can see, it's relatively sharp, and what we're attempting to do now is just go across and take off the square edges. If you notice in the early sections of this turning, you will see the chips coming off are little tiny pieces. This is actually the stage at which most people do the most damage to their blank, because as those chips come off, they can be of varying sizes. If they're small chips, it's no problem. If they turn into big chips, that's a problem because it can go all the way down to the actual tube of the turning. So you're trying desperately to make sure that you don't take things off in big chips. Now I've gotten close enough to a cylinder that I'm actually starting to take some of it off in ribbons. When we get this close, then I try to go to the two corners and basically take a cut against there. It's what I call a rolling skew cut. It rolls the skew over the edge, over the corner, and turns it into a radius dimension. So you can actually see that it's getting closer and closer to the bushing, but it's also rounded. It's not square anymore. So if there should be some time that I hit the blank wrong and do take off a chunk, it usually will not break down below the bushing. It will usually just break as low as that cut is because of the radius going into it. Now both edges are fairly well rounded over. As you can see, I've moved the tool rest in a little closer again so that I don't have any chatter at all, at least as much as I can control. The other thing that you will notice is that I'm moving fairly slowly with my tool, and at the same time I am not building up heat. Frequently the question comes up, if you take too much material off, will it get too hot and shatter and so forth? And I've never experienced that, but by the same token I try to keep the tool moving and keep the edge of it sharp enough that I'm actually cutting, not just abusing the blank. The sharp edge will cut it, and even if you're trying to take off a little more than most people do, you'll see here that there's a shoulder where I'm taking off 1/16 of an inch or better at a time, and I'm just kind of moving along slowly, but taking off a fair amount of material. If you can hear in the background, you can hear that there is no shattering sound going on. I'm taking ribbons, and so it's not going to sound bad. Right at this point I try to zoom in and show you a little bit about the shoulder here, how much I'm taking off. You can see about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. You're looking from the top of the headstock here, and you can see about 1/2 inch down there's a shoulder there on the right hand side against the black. You can see it fairly well. It's not real apparent, but that's the amount that I'm taking off at any given time. Just now we start there and move back to the edge just to show how much is coming off at once. I haven't done a lot of this, so this is kind of a what works and what makes it so that you can understand what I'm trying to show here. Now it's going to shift from one skew to the other. This one is the small skew, 3/4 inch. It's also very sharp. So as you start to see this cut, you can see that the ribbons are coming off very smoothly. And also pay attention to the angle of that skew. It is nearly vertical. It is not in the horizontal or scraper position. At At this point, we've been working on this blank for almost 5 minutes. The size has come down from the square, which was just under an inch, to the point where I'm now just taking final cuts on the two corners, trying to get it down to the bushings. So it will be actually what you're seeing my hand come in there for it. As I test it, I can't see that well, so I put my finger on it just to make sure that it's accurate. And then we come across it again. Most of the turning is done toward the headstock. I continue to go toward the headstock just because it's habit for me and because I'm comfortable cutting at that part of the skew. You can see I'm actually using the lower probably quarter of the skew, and this is a 3/4 inch skew, so I'm approximately 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, maybe a little less than that. And again, just trying to clean up the ends. In this cut, you'll see that I'm actually getting closer to the horizontal. I'm using this more as a scraper, as many people do with the skew. In this case, what I'm attempting to do is just make sure that I'm making a nice straight cut. I'm trying to get this profile to be straight. I don't want to bulge anywhere. And so that's the reason that you'll see the skew gets a little bit more toward the horizontal as I'm trying to make it straighter. I'm not so concerned about cutting off material. I'm more interested in getting it straight. Now you can see the actual finished to the point that the skew is done, and it's now ready to be sanded. At this point, we're looking for sandpaper, which will be 360 grit sand cloth, really. I have 360 and 320, so I don't know which one I actually used.